from the Burbank Police Department. So this is a pursuit that started in the city of Burbank on the 5 freeway near the Western Avenue exit. And ironically, we're near the Western Avenue exit now, but for the 10 freeway, again, this is going to be 10 at Western, headed eastbound now. For a while, the pursuit was headed westbound on the 10 freeway, but he switched directions and is now headed eastbound back towards the downtown LA area. So a pursuit that started on the 5 freeway made its way southbound to the 10, and that's where he went westbound on the 10, now eastbound on the 10, coming up to the 110 freeway. A suspect that is wanted for assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer. It's unclear what the weapon may have been. Oftentimes in these types of situations, the vehicle that the suspect is in is considered a weapon, but of course there's also the possibility that the suspect may be armed to some other capacity, and that is the weapon that the officers are describing in this pursuit. Yeah, he's still on the eastbound 10 freeway, very close to the 110 freeway. Just went past it, actually. He's now closer to the San Pedro exit. So this is technically the south section of downtown Los Angeles. So just to the left of the screen, which of course we can't see from this vantage point, is where we have all of the big buildings in downtown LA. And this is the portion of the 10 freeway that runs just on the south side of the buildings. At this point, it's unclear. We've been following along on the police scanner on our way out here, and at this point, they're only talking about that singular suspect in the driver's seat. And at this point, it's also unclear if that suspect is a male or a female. We, of course, will try to just refer to the suspect as the suspect because we simply don't know at this point whether or not that is a male suspect, a female suspect, or whether there is anybody else inside of this small sedan with that suspect. We have the original agency, which was Burbank PD. Once the pursuit made its way onto the freeways, the California Highway Patrol is always going to be the best suited agency to take over a pursuit that is on our freeway system. So they have asked for the California Highway Patrol to take over, and they are now the lead agency, I believe. I'll move the camera over just a touch to that lead unit, and that is in fact a unit from the California Highway Patrol. But for a time, I also heard that LAPD was being requested when he did get off the freeway, but now that he's back on the freeway, it will be CHP leading the charge with a Burbank PD unit trailing behind, because when this pursuit does come to a stop, it will be the Burbank PD unit that will make the arrest, since that is where the police pursuit initiated. Yes. Yeah, still on the 10 freeway here, but this is where all the freeways come together in the East LA interchange with the 101, the 5, the 60, and of course the 10 freeway. So this is going to be his or her chance to transition to another freeway if he so chooses. But at this point, I'm hearing the officers on the scanner describe it as the suspect is going northbound. So this is likely going to transition here to the northbound 5. So we'll know here once he completes the interchange here to see if in fact he is transitioning to that 5 freeway. But they are describing as him going northbound instead of eastbound. So I believe that this is going to be the portion now that becomes the 5 freeway. We'll be able to confirm here in just a moment. Originally on the 5 freeway, that's where we first heard that this pursuit began, the southbound 5 at Western Avenue, which is very close to the 134 freeway. The suspect made his way southbound on the 5, transitioned onto the 10 West, and when he got to around La Cienega is when he exited the freeway and then turned around in the other direction, took the 10 eastbound, and now on the northbound 5. And what we often see in some of these pursuits is that suspects tend to return to an area that is familiar to them. So if he continues here on this northbound 5 freeway, it will get him back into the city of Burbank and back into the area where this pursuit began. Yeah, our assignment desk always does a great job to call the agencies that are involved in the pursuit to get us additional information. At this point, the information that I had gotten from them was that this was an assault with a deadly weapon officer, but now that we know that this is possibly also a DUI suspect, it would explain why we saw some interesting maneuvers when this pursuit began. He has seemed to calm down quite a bit, sticking mostly to the first lane from the left, that being the fast lane. And speaking of fast, he's going about 76 to 80 miles an hour. He's kind of cruising at that speed, which of course is going to be higher than the posted speed limit through this area, which actually happens to be 55 miles an hour, as opposed to most of our freeways where the speed limits are 65. This particular section of the 5 freeway in the Boyle Heights area drops down to 55 miles an hour, so he's going a good 20 miles above the speed limit. Yes, of course. Continuing here on the northbound side of the 5, he just passed Stadium Way, which is going to be the exit for Dodger Stadium. I'm looking out the window now, and I can see Dodger Stadium out my window. So that's the area that he's at right now. The nearest cross freeway to the 5 freeway would be the 110 freeway. He had a chance to get on it, but instead continued here on the northbound 5. Again, sticking to that far left lane. No carpool lanes through this portion of the freeway. Those will start again in Burbank, but for now, just continuing here in the fast lane on the northbound side of the 5 at Stadium Way. Yeah, if he continues in this direction, heading northbound here on the 5, it will get him back into the area of Burbank where this pursuit began. And we often see this in pursuits. Suspects tend to return to an area that is familiar to them because they feel like they have a slight advantage if it's an area that they know. They won't drive themselves into a dead end. They may be able to drive into a parking structure that they're familiar with. They may be able to abandon the vehicle and run into their home or a friend's home in the area and seek shelter there and try to hide from police there. So that's why we often see this in situations like this. And at this point, he is continuing towards the city of Burbank, currently here on the northbound 5 at Fletcher Drive. Yeah, spike strip would be unlikely in this situation unless they can determine that he's going to continue in a set direction and that they could throw it out in front of him without impacting other commuters here on the northbound freeway. Of course, they're not going to try a pit maneuver. His speeds are simply too fast. Traveling at approximately 90 miles an hour, that sweet spot for pit maneuvers tends to be about 35 miles an hour. This type of situation, just simply not possible. The size of the vehicle, though, would be perfect. It's a smaller sized car, so any of these CHP cars would be able to effectively perform a pit maneuver if the situation called for it. But at this point, doesn't look like it's going to happen. He is hitting his brakes here, though, a little bit. He may be coming up to a little bit of traffic here on Colorado. Yeah, you can actually see some of those cones there now in that number 1 lane. Yeah, and you see a Caltrans vehicle right there ready to set up the cones for this night's construction work. I can tell you that the southbound side of the 5 through this area has seen construction almost on a nightly basis. The northbound side, the construction comes and goes just depending on the day, but it looks like tonight is one of the nights when they are going to set up their construction here through the area, very close to the 134 freeway. That's exactly what he is going under now. Yeah, he just passed the 134. That was his chance to get on either east or west there on the 134. He's now back very close to Western, which is where the pursuit began. The 5 freeway at Western is exactly where he finds himself now, and that's where we believe the pursuit originated. So I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps he tries to get off here on one of these exits. The next exit coming up is going to be Alameda, I believe. Then we've got Olive, Burbank Boulevard. So we'll see if he chooses to get off on any of those. But for now, though, continuing here on the northbound side of the 5, just passing the Western exit. That was his chance to get off, but continuing on. Yeah, a lot closer than we would typically see. And my feeling on it was that perhaps he was just trying to alert some of the other drivers through this construction zone that this vehicle was coming at them still at 90 miles an hour, even though it was a construction zone where, of course, you have to lower your speeds because of the workers that are in the area. He just passed the bigger portion of the construction. I don't think there's going to be too much up ahead here, but he's coming up to the Alameda Avenue exit, setting up to exit here. So we'll see if he does. It's kind of what we thought would happen, and it may be what is happening here, maybe exiting here on Alameda. Yeah, maybe surrendering here. He just passed Alameda, coming closer to Olive. So because he's slow rolling here, it does look like he may be closer to the Olive Avenue exit for the northbound side of the 5. His car doesn't appear to be disabled. I don't see any visible damage to the tires or even to the body of the vehicle. It very well could be. We don't know what his fuel situation was when this pursuit began, but yeah, and you can actually see the driver inside of the vehicle there, kind of moving around a bit. The window is partially down. It almost looks like he's dancing from the movement that I can see up here from News Chopper 4 Alpha. I'll try to increase my gain here a little bit to see if we can see inside a little bit better and try to perhaps figure out how many people are in the car. Obviously, we see that driver. It does appear to be a male, but he may be getting out in this situation. So I'm going to zoom out here just so we can see the bigger picture. When these pursuits come to an end, it's always a very sensitive situation, so I'll widen out just a touch and see what this suspect does as he comes up to the Verdugo Avenue exit here on the northbound side of the 5. Usually, yeah, absolutely. Usually what we would want to see is the driver throw the keys out the window first to guarantee that he can't continue on, and then step out of the vehicle with his hands up. When he stepped out of the vehicle, his hands were straight to the ground. Unclear if he had anything in them. But now that he's out of the vehicle, they will start the procedure of instructing him to put his hands up. widen out his legs, lift up his shirt, just so that they can make sure that there's nothing on his person that could potentially hurt them. And once they feel confident, that is when they will approach and take the suspect into custody. Of course, they will also have to clear the vehicle for additional suspects and for any other suspect that may perhaps be hiding in the vehicle. Yeah, it looks like they're going for less lethal rounds there. I do see a less lethal shotgun that the officer grabbed from the back of his patrol unit. This, of course, a very tense situation here because they don't know if this person is armed in any way. Of course, we know that the vehicle was used as the weapon for this pursuit to even begin here in the city of Burbank. But now it's unclear, though, if this suspect is going to give up voluntarily. At this point, does not appear to be complying with the officer's commands. The officers are describing him as very erratic, and they're moving in. They just shot him with a beanbag shotgun and will be taking him into custody. Again, those were less lethal rounds that you saw fired upon the suspect here on the northbound side of the 5 at the Olive Avenue exit. You see this team of officers just pile up onto that suspect in an attempt to take him into custody, and they're yet to clear the vehicle to see if there are any other additional suspects. You see that one officer walking up to the car now to figure that part of this situation out. But for now, the suspect's still fighting with officers here as they attempt to take him into custody. Yeah, they said he was still acting very erratically, pointing to the car, not really making much sense. So they didn't think that they were going to be able to talk the suspect into complying, and that's why they decided to use these less lethal rounds to take this individual into custody. Still have not heard an update on that officer's condition. We, of course, hope that he is doing well, but a pursuit that started very close to the 5 at Western was what we first heard. Made its way down the 5 to the 10, and then back up to the 5 and back up into the city of Burbank, where the suspect came to a rolling stop here on Olive, on the 5 freeway with the cross of Olive, jumped out of the vehicle, and then was not complying with officers, and they eventually used some of these less lethal rounds to take him into custody. I'm going to zoom in here, though, so that we can take a closer look at that suspect as they bring him up to his feet. And, of course, they will give him medical attention if that is necessary. If it's not, he will be on his way to the police station. No additional suspects in the vehicle.